Let's See Them Aliens. A Facebook event calling for millions of people to raid Area 51 has become incredibly popular and has inspired many knockoff raid events. Then, Nancy Pelosi has still not moved her position on impeachment, calling for many to wonder whether her values truly align with the core value of the party, or if the values of the party have moved, and Kim Jong-un has recently restarted his missile tests. This is the Astra Show, and I'm your host, Andy Ramirez. Okay, so a lot of fun stuff to actually get to on the first episode of the Astra Show. So let's talk about aliens and what necessarily has people in such a frenzy about this. Now, according to ABC, in an article written by Elizabeth McLaughlin, they say that the Air Force is actually really worried about this. In fact, that they have people on alert now, which is kind of concerning. As of Wednesday morning, over 1.5 million people said they were attending this event, according to the article. They can't stop us all. So, the event is scheduled for September 20th at 3 a.m. Daylight Pacific Time. Another 1.1 million Facebook users indicated that they were interested. A lot of this also has seemed to become a meme, saying that if we all Naruto run faster than their bullets, then we can see them aliens, which refers to an anime character running in an odd manner. But this really shows how people can get really fired up over something that's really kind of silly. Now, I'm not saying it's not funny, because I think it's funny, but it definitely is concerning for the nature of how people can get into a frenzy. This is how a normal conversation about, oh, let's raid Area 51, turns into a potential actual cause for national security. Now, I don't actually think millions of people are going to raid Area 51. In fact, I'm not sure that anyone will go at all. But the fact that people are kind of serious, some people are serious about this, is a little concerning. But the vast majority of people know it's a joke, and it's nothing much to worry about. In an article published by CNN by A.J. Willingham, they have a travel guide for people who are wanting to go to Area 51. Because of all the UFO sightings in the area, many people think that's where actual aliens are. Now, I'm not saying that I do think there are aliens there or there are no aliens there, but I can definitely see why people would think there's something shady going on. But historically, Area 51 has been a testing ground for technology that hasn't necessarily been fully developed. Lots of planes, experimental planes at that, were developed in Area 51, but to say aliens and UFO and flying saucers are there seems to be a bit of a stretch. Like, the declassified articles that Area 51 has released is more or less kind of like a farce, just to kind of keep away from the aliens. But I think people are grabbing at that point. I think the government really doesn't have anything too malicious, especially against its own populace in Area 51. I'm not sure what they could be hiding there, but I don't think it's worth raiding it and possibly risking lives to do it. In fact, I think it's a matter of national security if people really do want to raid a military installation like that. And people are wondering if you can just go to Area 51. Some people have gotten on Google Maps and see if they can just drop a little person to try to see what it's like in Area 51. But of course, the Google photographers are barred from going in there, just like everyone else is. If anyone can just walk into a military installation, then it's not really so secret, and secrets can get out, and that's scary, especially when it matters national security. This has gone on to inspire a lot of other knockoff event raids, such as an article, the Time posted this article by Melissa Locker, who said that there is a Storm Loch Ness event now, where they're trying to find Nessie, which is just, it's crazy. I think it's funny too, but it's becoming kind of a concern where 19,000 people have signed up to storm Loch Ness, so they can find Nessie. They say Nessie can't hide from us all. Now, the 40,000 say they are interested in the event, scheduled to take place on September 21st. The the volunteer Royal National Lifeboat Institution, who monitors Loch Ness, which I'm surprised they even have, hopes no one really does want to show up. And as they don't have the resources of the U.S. military, they aren't really actually fully equipped to keep people from barging in there. There really isn't anything to really cause major concern when it comes to people raiding it, because most people understand that it's a joke and that they're not actually going to do it. But it does raise the question of what people will go, if there are any at all. People can get whipped up into a frenzy really quickly, and it's kind of scary whenever it does happen, because what you see a lot of the time in mob mentalities is people lose their sense of control. People get out of control. That's what causes massive out of control riots. Whenever people lose their own sort of self-control through mob mentality. It's scary. It's really quite frightening, and the idea that something silly like this could cause something like could cause a riot is out there for sure. It's crazy, and I don't think it will happen, but it just goes to show that we should be careful and cautious about what we're really saying. And in other news today, Nancy Pelosi has not moved at all on impeachment. They have been trying to impeach Trump ever since he got into office, and they haven't really ever found anything in the reports. In fact, a lot of people that have studied the report have found things that they couldn't equate anything at all, but others have found stuff that wouldn't raise any headline at all. It's just they couldn't confirm a crime happened and they couldn't deny a crime happened. But the government was raised on the idea of you are innocent until proven guilty, and they have not found anything to really prove President Trump guilty. And most of the American public can kind of agree with that it's not worth it for impeachment because of the lack of evidence and the lack of political capital and support. But that doesn't stop the more radicals on Nancy Pelosi's party from getting angry and causing a split in the party. Democrats like AOC have been clamoring for impeachment for a long time, and they believe it is just an injustice that President Trump is in office. But if this keeps going like how it is, this is a bone to President Trump. This just shows how far off the Democrats have moved, which I believe has happened. I believe the Democrats have gotten much more radical in past years than any Republican would say it. I'm not saying the Republicans are perfect either, but there is a core part of the Democratic Party which has stayed roughly the same, and now there is this new, more radical base is flying farther and farther off, which is scary because, for one, it creates another division in a party, which is not good for anyone. It doesn't let bills get passed, doesn't help anyone, especially when it comes to ideas, and it causes instability in the party, which leads to people backing out of a party, leads to people wanting to change parties, like what happened with Amash, who he left the Republican Party after he clamored for impeachment, but no one was really on his side, so he left. And the same could happen with the Democratic Party. It's quite a concern, and if the Democrats can't unify soon enough, then this will be huge for President Trump, because voters are left more split than ever. Which Democrat is the right choice? Instead of having a one Democrat that can suit most of the people, most of their base, then there's no way they can really stand up to Trump in 2020, which is why I think as of now, Trump has the best leading chance. Even though the polls don't indicate it, I think Trump still has the best leading chance. In the polls, last election cycle, they had Trump at far worse numbers, and he still won. And sure, some people may chalk up to Russian interference, but that's a topic for another day, and also the Russian interference didn't really do much. I mean, sure, there was Facebook ads, and there was like trying to get some secrets, but all in all, President Trump didn't have a real hand in any sort of that intervention by foreign governments, such as like Russia. Now, while this seems kind of odd that Nancy Pelosi wouldn't want impeachment, because she's a pretty core Democrat. She's been in the Speaker of the House twice, and she's a pretty solid Democrat for many people. Many people like Nancy Pelosi a lot, but she hasn't moved on impeachment, which I think is smart, because I think she knows that impeachment means tons of pain and tons of lost base for the Democrats. Impeachment is just not worth it. Nancy Pelosi realizes it. I'm not a big Nancy Pelosi fan, personally, but I still think this is a smart move, what she's doing, when she knows that going after impeachment is just not a good idea. In fact, she's gone on to try to end a lot of this impeachment talk, according to an article by Politico, by Heather Gagel, where she's trying to actually end a lot of this impeachment talk, while it's growing and getting worse. The Democrats are splitting, and Pelosi is eager to show her party can govern, in contrast to the kind of chaos surrounding Trump. Believes that the reputation as the no-drama Democrats is taking back the House in 2018 and whisking her back into the Speaker's chair. She's basically going after the actual politics of it. She's not going for radical or ideas. She just wants Democratic power back where it should be, back with the core idea of its voters. That's where the Democrats should be. But the Democrats have split off. We've seen Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez far, far, far removed from the original Democratic values. Now the Democrats have become more socialist and moving towards a more government and restrictive ideas in terms of personal liberties, such as gun rights. While gun rights have always been a high contention of debate, even core Democrats, many of them don't want a full-on ban. But now, a lot of the hard radical Democrats, they want a full-on Second Amendment repeal, which just shows how far the party has moved. And even Nancy Pelosi, who has been for most of, if not all, Democratic ideas, understands that going so radical is just painful for the Democratic base. A lot of moderate Democrats and even independents will start moving Republican because they just see Republicans as the most moderate option. The Democrats are being incredibly dangerous with this impeachment idea because it's just not worth it. And even if they do get it, what happens in 2020? I mean, sure, they'll probably get a Dem candidate in office if they go through with impeachment and actually remove Trump out of office. But at what cost? They'll lose a ton of their Democratic support from this. And it's just crazy how much this impeachment thing has blown up. It should not have escalated to this level because they can't find anything really in the reports. Now, a lot of verbal attacks, now there's some actual missile attacks going on with North Korea.
U.S. defense official says North Korea has launched at least one short-range projectile. Let's go to Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr with the latest. Barbara?
Hi, Amber. The information here at the Pentagon is very preliminary, and that's why they are not saying a lot about it. But the initial report, the initial assessment, indeed, is that North Korea fired at least one short-range projectile a short time ago. They are not able to say yet whether it's a ballistic missile, artillery, what kind of projectile it was, or whether there was more than one. They're not ready to make that announcement because they are still analyzing the intelligence that is coming in. It is being described to us as similar to the incident in May when North Korea did fire two short-range missiles. This will not be an event that will cause President Trump to have to publicly say, if he doesn't want to, that North Korea is back in the testing program. They're kind of below that radar of being a crisis. So it's apparently, by all accounts, a very particular move by Kim Jong-un to send a message. He can still test fire when he wants to, but he is not really thumbing his nose at the president. This, by all accounts at this point, is not a long-range missile, not a threat to the United States, not something that will have to cause President Trump to come out and disavow Kim's friendship that he talks about so much.
Now, according to CNN, in an article written by Zachary Cohen, Nicolette Gahout, Sophie Zhang, and Barbara Starr, they say that North Korea has just launched a new missile. It hasn't struck anything, as far as I'm aware, but they're testing out a new missile, which poses a military threat. It was reported by the South Korean government, and the article goes on to explain that the government has been closely monitoring the relevant trends and is urging Pyongyang to suspend such activities that are not helpful for efforts to ease military tensions on the Korean peninsula. Ministry spokesman Cho Hyun-soo said going forward, the South Korean government will strengthen its monitoring cooperation and close communication with the U.S. Kim Jong-un is not being smart about this. these missile tests are not good for himself, they're not good for his country, they're not good for the planet. And let me explain why. In the sense that they're not good for his country is in the way that he's diverting resources from the people. He's taking resources from the people to go towards his missiles. And it's not helpful because people in North Korea are starving. On average, North Koreans are 3 inches shorter than their South Korean counterparts. Even though they have similar genes, they are still on average 3 inches shorter because of the malnutrition. And a lot of this food, a lot of this resources, the money could go towards improving infrastructure in North Korea, but they don't. They use it on missiles. Instead of building grain silos, they're building missile silos. It's not helpful, and Kim Jong-un, and this is the sad thing about North Korea, because they know negotiations will happen, and it's empirically kind of been shown that North Korea will escalate and then de-escalate according to their food needs in order to get more aid. And this is the first launch since Trump has entered North Korea, according to the same article by CNN. So it's kind of showing that our talks have not been as fruitful. I don't think the talks have been successful enough to really create a good enough change. I think Trump's talking is incredible. I think what he did is honestly just kind of impressive overall, because no one could really get straight talks with him. And people thought Trump was leading us to World War III with North Korea, but he didn't. He led us to talks instead, which is large respect from me. But it doesn't seem like it was enough. And whether that be fault on Trump's part or Kim Jong-un just being unconvincible, these missile tests again are concerning, because a failed missile test, a missile landing in Japan or landing in South Korea, could easily spark something. Well, I'm not saying it could be a full-out war, but it could cause some sort of escalation if the de-escalation efforts fail. In World War II, they tried to do something called appeasement with Germany, but it failed when they tried to talk things out diplomatically while Germany was invading other countries. Now the world has moved on from that, and they're much more ready to respond with military force, which acts as a deterrent. But if that deterrent fails, if North Korea just thinks, oh yeah, we can do this, we got this, they're just confident. If they're overly confident and they just invade South Korea, or if South Korea invades North Korea for that matter, if a missile lands in Seoul, then, well, the deterrent has failed. And now it's a full-out war in the Korean Peninsula. And this could escalate in a multitude of ways. China could back up North Korea, and, well, the U.S. could back up South Korea. That could easily spark a World War III. People have been worried about North Korea for a long time, and these missile tests just don't help. They don't help the tension, especially during the trade war and tensions increasing between the U.S. and China. Even though there have been talks between Trump and Xi Jinping, there isn't really anything solid yet. There's no agreements on true peace yet, because North Korea is still being supported by China. China is their largest supporter in terms of resources, diplomatic help, and actual fertilizer. They're a huge giver of fertilizer to North Korea because they can't make enough to grow food. It's what's concerning that China could eventually support North Korea in a conflict, which is it's a bad thing, a real bad thing. The Second World War killed almost double, if not double, the same amount of people that died in the First World War, and now with WMDs and massive type of guns, and it could definitely cause something that could lead to unforeseeable amounts of casualties. Now North Korea may seem scary, but I don't believe that North Korea will really escalate. I don't believe that they're a big of a threat that we have to give them. I think that making them more of a threat does not help things. I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of making them more of a threat, making them seem scarier than they really are. Just becoming so fearful of them and their government is not helpful for diplomatic relations. And I do think we need a military deterrent. I think that's one of the greatest things we can use against North Korea, but that doesn't mean we should use it. And I mean the military aspect of it, actually going on the battlefield and trying to take cities. It's concerning because I don't want people to die. No one should want people to die in a war. War is deadly. War is harsh. And it's incredibly sad with so many people losing their lives over a conflict that they had no part in. People don't ask for wars, but people still die in them anyways. It's a shame, and the best way to prevent wars is through a deterrent. But North Korea becoming belligerent like this, it's just kind of scary because if deterrence fails, then panic could spread through a war, causing more instability, leading to more conflicts. And I think we should reinvigorate our talks with them, make them stronger, make our relations better, and actually try to come to a true consensus on what both countries want. We should both try to have a goal in this that we can both reasonably meet. Kim Jong-un does not want a war with the West, and the U.S. does not want a war in the Korean Peninsula. No one wants a war in the Korean Peninsula. And this is a situation we should try to avoid as best as possible. But that's been the Astra Show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Andrew Ramirez.